Hey guys, it's Jennie with the Wolek Group, Keller Williams Realty here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm here with my friend and running coach, Kris Vogt. And you know what, Kris? Last year, you helped me run the New York City Marathon. Can you even believe that I did that?
Yes, of course I can believe you did that. And but time has sure gone fast. That's one thing I know for sure too.
It's so crazy because, I had these big and these amazing intentions, right? Like, so I get back from the marathon, I put another run on my calendar for the end of March.
Yep.
And then life happens and COVID happens and Jennie doesn't run.
Yep.
And so what's instead happened is I'm noticing my body aching and larger in some spaces. And I got, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? And so, whenever something like that happens in my life, I reach out and talk to a coach. My business coach said, well, Jennie, just reach out to Kris. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that. So all of this started because I needed to get my body moving. Yeah. I love empowering and inspiring others to do the same with me if I'm going to do it. And I thought, well, how about if we enlist the coaching of Kris and the accountability of a group of others together and have some fun and give back while we do it. So that's what we're going to do. Isn't it exciting?
I'm super duper excited. My wife will tell you, I woke up at 3 a.m. the other morning after our conversation. Was that Monday?
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep after 3 a.m. So I went.
Oh, good.
Well, so then I went out and ran.
Well, yeah, of course you did. But yeah, so here's the game plan is that we're going to have some fun toward the end of August. We're going to get going and we're going to include lots of other people on it. And for now, let's just tell everybody who you are and why you're valid to help us through this, because you're going to volunteer your time to help guide and coach us. So go ahead, tell us.
So I appreciate that. So that's a big word, valid, right? So here's my validity, right? So I'm like everyone who's going to watch this. I'm just like an ordinary human being, right? August 6th of 2007, I had been on a little bit of a journey, and I'm the father. I'm happily married to Kelly Vogt. We'll be married for 32 years this coming November. We have 3 beautiful kids who nowadays are all married. I have three grandbabies and 2 more coming. And August 6, 2007 was one of the days where I just woke up and decided to, that was the day I just decided to talk less and do more. And what I did is I showed up in my garage that afternoon, did a very non-glamorous, very hot August day workout. And it was really core strength. And at that point in my journey, I had worked on my hydration, my fitness, or my nutrition. Started to do a little bit of walking regimen, and decided to frankly be a better model and role model for my kids and people who were around me. I was leading a very large office real estate company at the time. And I didn't want to be one of those people that said, well, here's what you should do in your health and all these other things. I just decided to stop preaching and start doing, and started what I would call a simple little workout, simple but not easy. One thing led to another, and I was in a small group men's Bible study at the time, and a guy by the name of Eddie Schmidt, who was a runner, started to encourage me to run. And so, by the way, I was a self-admitted runners are crazy. The only time I really ever ran was as a baseball player growing up when we'd get punished. So I too learned to hate running. And so Eddie said to me, well, you got to do a little bit of running. I'm like, don't like that. And a funny thing happened. And the more I began to hang around Eddie on Saturday mornings when all my brothers were eating donuts and not exercising, this funny thing started to happen. So before I knew it, and there's a lot in between, but before I knew it, about 6 months later, plus or minus 5 months later, I was standing at the start line of my very first marathon, and a lot in between in that story. And one of the things I share with everyone, Jennie, is that this just is not about running. So for me, I took that step forward to be better, to be a better husband, to be a better father. I'm now a grandpa, and off I went. So I ran my first marathon January 13th of 2008. A young lady on the course that day asked me if I was trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I simply said, nope, just trying to finish. I did finish, and I was hooked. I was high in endorphins. I couldn't sleep that night, and I started to Google the Boston Marathon. So as we sit here today, this would have been my 12th consecutive Boston Marathon. However, this little COVID thing came up. So long and short, my validity, I suppose, comes from a lot of study and a lot of personal anecdote. I've run 34 marathons, two Ironman triathlons. I've run as far as 110 miles in any one setting. And then, oh, by the way, I began to coach and train and become more knowledgeable about endurance and fitness and coaching. And so I started coaching my family members. In fact, my first time I paced my sister-in-law, really is a family affair. I was her pacer, so I coached her and then paced her that day in San Diego in 2009, where she qualified for her very first Boston Marathon. And then off I went. And I just have a passion for helping people get the best out of them. So, well, and by the way, I've helped people all along. I've helped people run their first couch to 5K all the way to, I had somebody that I coached this past spring who ran his first 50K.
Yeah, all the levels. So what are some things, since you've worked with people on all different levels of where they are in their journey of running, what are some things that come up that really become challenges for them that you've seen?
Yeah, so great question. So, without making this sound like a cliche, a mindset is a big part of it. Now here's the deal. You can't just have a made up mind and go, oh, I'm going to go run 100 miles. Okay, there's more to it than just the mindset. So what I like to talk about, and with everyone, including myself, is it's aligning your psychology with your physiology, right? So as we're having this discussion right now, your mindset is at a different place than it was a year plus ago, right?
Right.
Now, your physiological state, because of COVID and whatever else, might have drooped a little. Right? And your mind, you don't have to convince your mind anymore that you can run a mile. In fact, you don't have to convince yourself anymore that you can run 26.2 miles. Right. So it's the alignment of the head and the body, essentially, right? So physiological and psychological. And in coaching, what I try to do is figure out where the athlete is, right? Is there, because sometimes younger runners tend to do this. If I talk to a 21-year-old kid, they're like, I can do anything. And then they're like half mile in because they've gone out too fast, and they're like, okay, this is for the birds. I don't like this. Yeah. Right. But yeah, it's mindset, and then where we're at physically in that realm.
So what are some things and words of encouragement that you would have for somebody just starting this journey, or maybe they've had a goal for running and they just haven't had the motivation to do it? I mean, where do they start and how do you encourage them?
Yeah. So for me, Jennie, so again, there's a lot of subplots to my story, right? So I had heard Zig Ziglar back when I was a young man, and he was talking about health goals. And what he said to a group of us, there was hundreds of us there this day, and I actually was very fortunate. I was up front, and Zig was talking, and he said this, and I was probably in my late 20s. I was married. We had a couple of babies at that point, and he said this. He said people don't lack the reason. They don't lack. Excuse me. They don't lack. It's not that they lack the goal. It's that they lack the reason behind the goal. Nowadays we call that the why, right? So Zig said, when I set my health goals, and he shared his reason, he said, I want to be able to dance at my grandkid's wedding. And he looked at the group and he said, now that's a worthy goal. I still have my Franklin time management system that I wrote down that note that day. And the funny thing is, I was not a grandpa at the time, and I had hoped that someday, if I was blessed with that, I wanted to achieve that same thing. Now, it was a cool seed that got planted. And as I like to say, then I spent about 20 years carb loading before I took some action.
Yeah.
Okay? But without being cliched, because sometimes it can't, well, just find your why. And no, you can tie this to, why do you want to do this? Because I can tell you, well, let me back up. The coolest part, I don't have to tell you, if you were to ask my grown kids, my wife, anyone who knew me before and now, they'd say he's roughly the same guy. And oh my goodness, it's a better version.
Yeah.
So my own family will testify to the fact that this 41-year-old man, I'm 54 now, went through this change to be able to ultimately, good Lord willing, dance at his grandkids' weddings, and the benefits beyond the way. So it is really tying this to why do you want to be healthy? I know that sounds silly almost, but why do we really want to be healthy? Because if we really want to be healthy, we will drink more water, eat better, and exercise more, right? So for me, it was very personal in that realm. I did not want to be a mediocre dad. I didn't want to, again, essentially, I didn't want to be a hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, there's so many times that people use the analogy of running a marathon in
Yep.
life, right? I mean, and then it's amazing how much I changed over
Yep.
those many months of learning about hydration and fuel that
Yep.
I finished. And that was quite an accomplishment. And I
Yep.
appreciate you for helping me do that. So I think that our goal here is just to get others to help us. They can run the distance that they feel amazing at running.
Yep.
And just be proud of themselves at the end of the day. Because like you said, it's getting our mind and our body in alignment. And
Yep.
really, it's an ongoing battle. As
Yep.
I'm running, at least, I'm reminding myself why I'm doing it and convincing myself to push a little bit harder and a little bit faster. So.
Yep. So as we move forward on this, there's a couple of words that I guarantee the audience will come up, guaranteed. The two words, and there'll be some other ones that we'll talk about later, but there two are never and only.
Yeah.
Never and only. And so look, this isn't about talking people into running a marathon. And what I always suggest to people, and I suggest you, just don't limit yourself. So, hey, look, for me, when I wrote down on my 3x5 note card, 64, my nutrition plan was 64 ounces of water a day. My reading plan was a proverb a day, and my exercise plan was 30 minutes of walking. That's where this 34 marathon thing came from when I finally got in the right, when the alignment happened, for lack of a better way to say it, right? And so what I always talk with our athletes about is not saying things like, well, I'm only running a mile, or I'm only running a 5K, or this is not, don't compare your inside to
Other people's
outside, right?
Yeah.
This is about being the best we can be. And the other is never. Never is a really long time.
Yeah.
It's a really long time. You may choose to never run a marathon. You may choose, you may never do that. You may never, and here's what I do know, you just never know. So allow the possibility. And as my good friend Dick Beardsley says in Spirit of the Marathon, and when you cross that finish line, your life will never be the same.
What'd you say? You're in the 1%ers at that point?
Yeah. So.
Well, we aren't going to make you run a marathon. We're going to just encourage you to do the best that you can do. And that's what we're going to have some fun about. So keep posted, and we are excited to see all the info, and join us and have some fun. And thank you, Kris. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you for providing the inspiration and motivation to everyone watching. So thank you. And I'm super excited about this journey.
Me too. Okay. Bye, guys. See ya.